Welcome back to another episode of Click to Buy. I'm your host, Becca, and today we're talking about one of the most valuable yet often overlooked aspects of email marketing, retention. My guest today is Ugo Balestrazzi, an email marketing expert and retention consultant who's helped brands not just boost their email revenue, but completely transform how they engage with their subscribers. Ugo runs Corbulo Star Media, a boutique agency where he's known for his ability to reactivate inactive subscribers and create email content that people actually enjoy reading. One of Ugo's standout success stories involves taking a seven-figure business from earning nothing through email to generating $112,000 in just 30 days. And that was only the beginning because he later actually pushed it to 1 million. So in this episode, he's going to share practical, actionable insights on why retention should be a key focus for e-com brands like yours, and how you can craft email campaigns that keep subscribers engaged and coming back for more. So if you're ready to improve your email game and drive long-term growth, this episode is for you. Well, I have one thing last to do, and that's to welcome Ugo to the show. Thank you so much for being on Click to Buy.
Thank you very much, Becca, for inviting me over.
Absolutely. Well, I have so many questions to ask you, but let's just dive into the basics. I know you're big on retention marketing. Could you explain to me what retention means in the context of email marketing, and why should e-com brands prioritize it over short-term tactics?
Of course. So basically every business, not only in e-commerce, but pretty much any type of business, has two components. One is acquisition, which is paid ads and all these type of channels like Meta ads, TikTok ads, Pinterest ads, all of these channels which are used to acquire customers. And then there is the retention part. So how to retain clients. And this part is mainly done by email, SMS, WhatsApp marketing, direct mail in some cases. Now there is also another channel called OneSend, which is retention through Messenger, Facebook Messenger. So all these channels work together in order to make sure that the new acquired leads or existing buyers keep in touch with the brand, they are engaged with the brand, and then they can come back to buy again. Yeah. And it's very important also to have a retention because, as I said, is one of the main two components. So if you only focus on acquisition, then the cost of acquisition is going high and higher and higher every year, because of course many new e-commerce brands are jumping in. So of course Meta, TikTok, they are increasing their cost per lead, like everything, the cost of acquisition cost, the PPC, all those metrics. So it's very important to make sure that you can retain your clients effectively.
Absolutely. And so for somebody who's setting up an email marketing retention strategy, what are the key metrics that they should look at for analyzing the progress of their strategy and also the overall success or performance?
Absolutely. So there are multiple metrics to look for. Like the first one, of course, the main ones are open rates, click-through rates, conversion rates. These, of course, are the basic ones. Then, of course, there are many other a bit more advanced metrics like average order value, MER, if you want to look at 360 degrees, and most importantly, also the customer lifetime value, CLTV. So this is to fully understand how your retention marketing strategy is performing over the medium long term run.
Absolutely. Thanks for clarifying that. I think especially because there are so many different ways of measuring success and progress, I think it's really helpful to kind of keep all those things you mentioned in line and keep an eye on it to see if it's making the impact that you hope it will. Well, of course, a big part of retention is dealing with a problem which a lot of brands have, which is dealing with inactive subscribers. And I know this is something you're an expert on. So I'm curious if you have any advice on what tactics can brands use to reactivate their subscribers, and what kind of results can they look for or hope for when they're implementing a reactivation strategy?
Absolutely, Becca. So basically, before I share the exact strategy that I use pretty much with every brand to start reactivating some inactive subscribers, one important thing to take into account is that every subscriber has a beginning and an end, you know? So that's why it's customer lifetime value. Some can stay 1 month, some can stay 1 week, some can stay 10 years, but sooner or later, someone will leave, you know? But what I've noticed through my experience, and again, not only in e-commerce, but in many other industries like SaaS, coaching, real estate, I noticed that there are so many subscribers that were not nurtured properly, and they either stop opening emails because maybe they were not targeted properly, or because they found the emails a bit boring, if we can use this word, or for many other factors. You know, there are countless factors. So this is something to really highlight, you know, emphasize, because it's critical. You know, you can't have the 100% guarantee that everyone will be reactivated. However, there is a good chance to reactivate around 10 to 20, sometimes if you're like even 30% of the inactive subscribers. Like the brand that I mentioned, that when I started working with a brand that was pretty much not using emails at all, and then in 30 days we achieved $112,000. Basically, this client, this seven-figure client, which I'm still working with, and we recently hit 1 million, they had an email list of around 120, 130,000 people, and we were able to reactivate fairly easily around 35, 40% of the subscribers, which no one ever emailed, you know. So the strategy that I use is this one, you know, like usually is it can be applied pretty much with every business. So the first thing to do is to separate the engaged subscribers with the unengaged subscribers, right? You don't want to email all of them at the same time, because this can be a problem, especially for deliverability, because in the end, that's one of the main things that you really want to pay attention to, because if the email doesn't land in the inbox, or worst case scenario in the promo, and lands in spam instead, then people not only they won't see it, but you know, no one buys from spam, you know, from the spam folder, you know, because it psychologically is a sort of red flag, you know. So even if they know you, and if the email lands in the spam, it's very hard that you can convert them. So you want to make sure that you keep the deliverability healthy while you do this reactivation process. So the reactivation process that I use is usually this one. I separate the engaged segment with the unengaged one, okay? I convert into the unengaged segment into a list. Let's say, for example, there are 10,000 unengaged people. What I do is I take these 10,000 people and I split them in chunks, okay? So for example, in chunks of between 1,000 to 2,000, based of course on the size. So in this case, let's say I create 5 segments of 2,000 people each. Okay, so 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. So in total is 10,000. Once this is done, I usually start sending one email for each chunk. And what I do is I take the engaged list, okay? Let's say the engaged list is 25,000 people, and I add one of these chunks, you know, for each time I send an email. Okay, so let's say in this case, 25,000 plus 2,000 is 27,000. And I send the email out, and then I see who gets reactivated and who opens the emails or not. Now, the people who opens the emails, that will be automatically added to the engaged segment. Okay. Now, why I do this? Because if you only send an email to each chunk, right, the open rate might be between 5% to 15/20%, which is not good. While if you have an engaged segment, people who open an email over the last 30 days, and you add one chunk, the total is from everyone, you know. So for example, if your average open rate with the engaged segment is 50%, if you add the group, maybe will be down to 45, right? But you keep the deliverability healthy. So as you can see, there is a lot of strategic thinking on that, you know, to keep the full ecosystem healthy. And I do this for each chunk. I repeat this procedure 3, 4 times. Then if people don't open at all, I can remove them, or I can reactivate in a second time for a last, I can try a last time. And then if someone doesn't open at all, then I can remove them. So this is the procedure that I follow. So for example, on Monday, engage group and chunk one. On Wednesday, engage group and chunk two. On Friday, engage group and chunk three, and so on, you know. Now, one very important thing is to always divide the buyers and non-buyers, okay? Because the buyers, they are people who spent money with you, they trust you, they like you, they know you, so it's much easier to reactivate, and they're much more valuable. And even if they don't open an email right away, they might open after 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, okay? So the buyers, I do my best to try not to clean the list of buyers as much as I can. You know, like the non-buyers is a bit different, you know, because some people, they just join to a list, but maybe they will never place an order. So it's okay. But buyers, they are more valuable. So it's better to spend a bit more time to reactivate them and try to make them engage with your content.
Absolutely. Thank you for that breakdown. That's super intriguing to hear the whole strategy and how you're maybe doing something that a little bit counterintuitive, like adding people from one list into like a more engaged list, but that's actually because you're helping the whole ecosystem. So I think taking that holistic approach is definitely a key takeaway already that we can get from your advice in this episode.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because again, you really want to see that everything is healthy, right? Because as I mentioned before, if you just email the chunks,
Hmm.
the open rate will be lower. So you send a bad sign to Gmail, Outlook, and all these email service providers. So these practices might lead to bring your emails in the spam folder over the medium long term run. While if you use this strategic plan, you know, procedure, then it might be much better and much healthier for the system. So you can make sure that you keep the deliverability high. I did this at least with 15 brands now, with all sizes from 5,000 people up to 250,000 people. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I loved what you said when you said people don't buy from the spam folder. And I think that brings up my next question, which was how can brands avoid getting there in the first place? Like, how do you make sure that you're creating email content that subscribers want to engage with and they want to open so that you avoid on the beginning side, you avoid getting so many people who are just like uninterested or bored with what you're offering in their inbox.
Yeah, so basically, what you want to do, the first thing you want to do is to really check what the competitors are doing. Now, the thing with what's going on, especially in the commerce industry, is that many brands are pretty much copy paste the other ones. So they send the same types of emails. So what you want to do is first of understand what they are doing, right? And then do kind of the opposite. You know, that's already one of the things you can do. But to go a bit more in depth, what you want to do is really first to understand the customer at a deeper level. So when you understand the customer at a deeper level, and so you have a deeper understanding about the customer journey, you know exactly what they want. You know, so for example, I let's take for example a brand selling supplements, right? So the people who are buying supplements, they want to learn more about how to be healthier, right? So not only they want the supplements, but they want knowledge about exercise they can make, you know, lifestyles, trends, even the ingredient themselves, to learn more about that. So you want to create content based on that, content that is more engaging. You want to do in a way that uh, is kind of a pattern interrupt, so you can use, for example, some particular designs, which are more eye-catching, or even to give some educational content in a way that is very interesting, and then tied to the product that you sell. That's one of the things. So a value-driven email, for example, can be a great solution with some pattern interrupts. And of course, one thing that you can do is to really take full advantage of the subject line. Of course, the subject line, there are so many ways to approach that. Like there are many formulas. Like sometimes I even seen, like in the past, like some brands which, for example, for the Independence Day, instead of saying something, they put like 20 emojis of the American flag all in a row. So this stand out a lot. Some of them can be one word, some others can be more with the formula curiosity plus desire, for example, or story plus desire, something like that. You can use this one. And most importantly, uh, sometimes you can also test the from name as well. Now, the front name, of course, is very important to make sure that you don't do this too often, because if you have an email list with over 5,000 people, then you might land in the spam folder if you do over and over and over. But if you do it once, and especially if you are able to add somehow the domain name. Okay, so for example, Green Life is the brand, and you say Mike from Green Life. No, this one
Mhm.
he's very powerful as well, because it's a pattern interrupt. Okay, so this is something that you can do. So you start with the from name. The subject line, you can test many things, with the formulas and the tips that I share right now. Another thing that you can do, you can really take full advantage of the preview text. So over there, you want to kind of reinforce what you said in the subject line, or try a different angle, which is of course connected with the first one, right? So for example, you can use a desire oriented subject line in this subject line, and then in the preview you do something more curiosity driven. And then the email itself, as I said, you can try some pattern interrupts, play a lot with the design. Of course, with a designer, talking to a designer would be great in that case. And bonus tip, another thing that I love to do is to check other industries. So for example, if you are in e-commerce, it's cool to see what other people are doing in different industries and get some inspiration as well. So this is very powerful as well.
Absolutely. I'm really curious on that last point because I know that you are like a master of all things retention marketing. Where have you found, like, do you have any examples of how you've been able to draw inspiration from other industries and like implement it with like an e-com client of yours or the other way around?
Absolutely. I actually did more on the other way around. So from e-commerce to other industries like coaching or SaaS, I was able to take some elements, especially about design and some pattern interrupt I used over there. But also I was able to get some types of emails. I use them in e-commerce. So one email that I like to do to send out quite often is a so-called market research email, where instead of sending a survey where people, if they barely open, or if they open then they might lie. So what I like to do is to send a sort of quick question, and push them to reply in exchange of something. In the case of e-commerce, I can say, for example, 20% off, that if they reply, they will get 20% off, or they can get early access to the new product launch, or many other angles as well. This is very powerful because email marketing can also be used as a market research tool, so that you can talk to the subscribers, collect data, and then with this data you can either create better campaigns, but also share this uh, with the other departments like acquisition, SEO, social media marketing, and they can create post or ads using the information that you just provided them.
Absolutely. I think that's a super great example. I know at Instant, we're definitely doing that. Like, I look at what sort of replies do we get to our emails. I noticed like a lot of people are asking, like, oh, can we use Instant to make like a homepage for my Shopify store? And that got my gears kind of turning. Like, a lot of people are asking this. So let's try using this on other elements of our content. And sure enough, a lot of people want that. It wasn't something we initially had as like a hook, but once you're kind of digging deeper into one area of your content, like email or something like that, sometimes there's like those little gems that you can apply to so many other aspects of your strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely, many concepts are starting to be used in also many other industries, and that's a good sign, because it's a good sign because the markets are becoming more sophisticated, so you can get also more inspiration. But at the same time, of course, it becomes harder and harder to stand out as well.
That's absolutely right. Well, maybe on that topic, like thinking about how things are always evolving and changing, do you have any predicted trends? Like, how do you think the future of retention marketing is going to change in the next couple of years? And how can people like me, like an e-commerce marketer, how can we prepare for these changes?
Absolutely. So basically, of course, one of the main things that will happen over the next few years, of course, is the massive use of AI. So AI will play a much bigger role than now, even though now many things are made with AI, but this is evolving very fast. So that's the first thing. Another thing that people will start focusing on much more is the part of humanizing the brand, because many brands, the thing is that by using AI, everything is starting to become boring and less human, right? So people are starting to lose a bit the touch, for as when it comes to copy, for example, or when it comes to some sort of automation. So what many brands will start doing is to focus more on how can you make this experience more personal, more human, to ensure a great post-purchase experience as well. So these are the things that people will focus more. So they will use AI, but at the same time, they will also try to find a way to humanize the brand more. So probably we'll see also more storytelling, and we'll see some different things in the post-purchase experience. And yeah, so these are some of the main things that will happen in the next 1 to 3 years for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for that great advice. I think like storytelling and humanizing the brand is something that a lot of brands can try to like take to heart, because also this whole episode you've talked about how some brands just like really try to copy paste what others are doing, and like with AI obviously it becomes easier and easier for everyone to kind of regurgitate the same text for certain campaigns just because we're using similar prompts. Like a lot of content's becoming the same, but like your brand and the faces that you put at it and like what people say, like user generated content about your brand or social proof, like that stuff that your competitors cannot copy. So the more kind of that storytelling element you use, I think that's great advice for how you can kind of rise above the boring in the future of marketing.
Absolutely, absolutely. This will play a very, very important role, because as you said as well, it's many people are using ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, like all this software, like to write copy and to speed up the process, which is good from one side, but from the other side, it's when you open an email, you almost feel if it's created by human or not, and so what people will focus on is to really uh, add a human touch over there, to have so the customer journey also will become much more sophisticated, right? And this of course will affect the other ecosystem. So that's why, as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, like it's very important to look at retention from the big picture. So you want to see a 360 degree, you want to see how can you retain the customer, what the customer wants to see, what the customer needs, and then create everything around that.
Absolutely. Well, we have, of course, when this episode drops, the holiday sales period will be quickly approaching. And I know that this is a great opportunity for brands to both excite new customers, but also like offer something of value to their current customers by giving them a special promotion or things like that. So I'm curious if you have any advice on email strategies or email content formats you've seen that have worked really well during this holiday period from like Black Friday, but also that post Black Friday to like the New Year period as well.
Absolutely. So basically for Black Friday, everything, everyone is starting much earlier than a few years ago. A few years before they were starting just either Black Friday, like on Friday, or they were starting just a few days earlier. Now you see when you check your emails, like you see, oh, Black Friday starting now, and it's 3 weeks before. So it's a bit crazy right now. So it's starting to lose a bit that vibe. Anyways. A couple of things that I like to do in this period is first of course, don't be afraid to sell a bit harder. So you want to increase the frequency. That's number one, the frequency of emails. So don't be afraid to send one email, sometimes even 2 emails a day, especially the week of Black Friday, because people are bombarded by emails. So it's really normal to do that. Now, no one will get upset or offended if you send more emails in that period. So that's number one. Number two, what you want to do, you want to make sure that you give the early bird access to people. So what I suggest is, for example, this month, you can send a few emails saying, hey, do you want to have early access to our Black Friday, Cyber Monday? You'll get early access plus some special discounts. And so you want to play also a bit with exclusivity and give them a bit of bigger discount if they join the early bird, okay? So that's one thing that can be done, and the early bird starts usually 2 to 3 weeks earlier. Another thing that you want to do, you want to create a segment on where you collect all the people which they spend either they bought for you at least 3, 4, or even 5 times, or they spent a certain amount of money. Okay, based on your average order value, then you create this small group of people, this VIP group, and then you send them 2 to 3 emails with a very, very special offer that is not available to the public, just for them. So you really want to play there to make them feel special, valued, and really reward them for spending money with your brand. So that's another thing. The last thing you want to do is during the week of Black Friday, what I recommend is to, if you can, to send 1/2 emails a day, and each day has to have a unique offer. So for example, you take the main bestsellers and then you say, okay, for 24 hours, 20% off on this specific 3 products or this collection, whatever. Tuesday for 15% off for this, then 25% off for that, So every day people will be like interested to see they offer, so this also is
Yeah.
means because people will be curious to say, okay, tomorrow which offer is gonna be. If you want, you can even test a sort of spoiler to say tomorrow there will be an offer about this, so you can also test this one. Last thing that you can do is to use the mystery discount. So you can send an email where people can add a code, but they don't know the amount, and then they will find out when they add the code. So this is something that can be tested out. Can be
Awesome. Thank you for that very comprehensive list of ideas. We'll definitely have to turn that into like a list of sorts for our show blog, which we always recap the best advice. And I think what you've just outlined there is like the perfect way to really attack this period and make sure that you're taking advantage of the inbox real estate that you have with anyone who's subscribed already to your list. Well, unfortunately, we're reaching near the end of the episode, but I cannot let you go without asking my final question. So, of course, it's click to buy. So, it's time for our click worthy tip segment. This is one quick conversion tip based on lessons that you've learned in your career. So, Ugo, I would love to learn what's one phrase or short piece of advice you can give store owners who are looking to improve their customer journey.
To improve the customer journey, I will say focus on the big picture, right? And most importantly, try to ensure, like to improve the post-purchase experience as much as you can. So instead of focusing on upselling right away, focus more on giving a great post-purchase experience where you give value, where you make them feel special. One thing that they can do also, if you have a good customer service, is to call the people who spent a certain amount to add their personal touch or to send a quick email, very personal from the customer service. And then after they really had a very great experience with you, then you can focus more on giving them a discount to buy from you again.
Absolutely. So don't forget to take care of your customers after they've clicked buy as well. I think that's some great advice to end our episode with. Ugo, thank you so much for being my guest here today on Click to Buy.
Thank you very much, Becca, for inviting me over.
Absolutely. Well, that's a wrap. So, again, thanks, Ugo, for his insights on retention marketing. Once again, I'm your host, Becca Anderson, coming to you from your host Instant Page Builder here. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, share it with your fellow ecom enthusiasts. And until next time, keep turning all those clicks into buys.